Hey guys, this is Al. Happy New Year. I know it's almost April, but I've been pretty busy working on my other building, which I'm hoping to put an office in, and that's pretty much taken most of my time, so I really haven't been doing much by way of car stuff. So the last week I did spend some time on the Corniche. I was struggling because we just rebuilt the fuel distributor and the car was still running pretty badly. Right, it would run okay as soon as you start it up, but then as soon as it would run for a couple of minutes, which I'm assuming as the engine warms up, it would start loading up, and it loads up so much that it would just barely want to run. I was beginning to think it was the warm-up regulator that was the problem, and I don't really understand exactly how it works, but let me bring in the warm-up regulator, then I can show you. So the warm-up regulator has two orifices. One of them connects to the top of the fuel distributor, so there's a line that comes out of the fuel distributor on the top, and it goes into one of these, and then this goes to the return line, or vice versa. I think one of them goes one place and the other one goes the other. What would basically happen is that there's a bimetallic strip inside here that controls a valve. So with that valve opening and closing, it would allow a certain amount of fuel to return from the rail from the top of the fuel distributor, and that controls the pressure that goes on the plunger and the mixture, because the mixture is really the fuel that's at the top of the fuel distributor and not the fuel that's at the bottom of the fuel distributor. The fuel distributor has two halves. So if that's blocked for any reason and there is a filter on one of these lines, then it could cause this car to run rough. So what I did is I took this warm-up regulator off, which was not that easy, to be honest with you. It was a lot of hard work, just by the nature of the way that this is. And you have to take the belts off, you have to take the AC compressor off, and then there's these two Allen bolts that go into these little holes, into these little gaps, and you've got to undo them, and it's kind of tricky. But I stuck it in the ultrasonic cleaner, I gave it a good clean. You can see the outside is really clean, but the inside should also be clean as well, because I had it submerged this way. So where the fuel was sorry, the solution was at this level. So I'm going to put this back and see how it works, and depending on how it works, if it fixes the problem, great. If it doesn't, I'm also going to try this fuel distributor, this warm-up regulator, sorry. This guy is a brand new warm-up regulator I bought maybe 12 years ago. I bought it from one of my 6.9s. It's the same part number as what would go on a 6.9 Mercedes. And it was brand new, and so I just basically picked it up, and because I could, I got a good deal on it. And can't guarantee if it will work 100% correct, but in idle condition, I'm hoping that it would cause the car to run better than it did before. I mean, it ran so bad that it doesn't take much to make it run better. At least that way, if it does run better with this guy than it did with this guy, and then I know that this is a problem and I can send it off to be rebuilt. If it doesn't, then I'm wondering if it's something else that's causing the problem. So that's going to be my test today, is I'm just going to go back and put it back in its spot, and then I'll run it. I can't run it for too long because obviously all the belts are off, the AC compressor's off, so the car's not going to be moving any water around because the water pump's not going to be spinning. But at least it'll give me an idea. Alright, so this is where the warm-up regulator lives. You can see those two bolts, holes. One of them's got an overhead screw in there already. That's really where the warm-up regulator lives. It's bolted to the cylinder head on the side. The AC compressor, which is over here, tilted off to one side, sits right above it. And it is an absolute huge pain in the rear to connect all this stuff up, but alas, you know, we have removed it. So I'm going to go back and put it back together again. I can't run it for too long because obviously all the belts are off the car, and you know, they're moved out of the way from the pulley so that it doesn't chew up the belts. But at least that way I can run it for a few minutes and see what it does, right? If it runs for a few minutes and it starts running okay, and I can leave it for 5 minutes and I'll put it all back together again. If not, then I'll wait for the engine to cool down, and then I'll swap the warm-up regulator out with the one that I bought new for the 450 STL 6.9 and see what it does. But anyway, that's where we are. So give me a few minutes and I'll put it all back together again and see if I can get the car going. Thank you. Hey guys, so everything's back together again. I did test run the warm-up regulator. After I semi-installed it, I just hooked up the hoses and the electricals, but I didn't put everything back together again, and it seemed like it's running okay. So if you remember how it ran before, it would idle okay, but smoke a lot when it was on a cold start, and then as soon as it got hot it would start smoking terribly, and it will run so rich that would eventually just kill itself, right? It was just dumping fuel. Let me try to explain this again with me in front of the engine. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. So I've got to get a proper crow's foot because this guy is leaking. But basically this fuel distributor comes in two halves, right? The bottom half is what feeds the fuel, and then there's a piston that sits in the center that moves backwards and forwards, or up and down rather. And as it moves up and down, it lets fuel from the bottom of the fuel distributor to the top of the fuel distributor, and that feeds the injectors. Then you've got this line over here, which is effectively a return line that comes out the top, so that if there's too much pressure here, it would bleed out into this line. This line goes to the warm-up regulator, which is right there, over there, right? You can see it. So that's where that line goes. And the warm-up regulator is supposed to manage the pressure that's in the head. This is how I understand it. So when we rebuilt the fuel distributor and it didn't solve the problem, my next assumption was that the warm-up regulator may be bad, right? Which is why it's dumping fuel. I had to take the AC compressor off to get it out of the way, and then there's two Allen bolts, one on the top and one on the bottom, that you have to undo. And it didn't matter which tool I seemed to have, one was either too short and the other one was too long, but that's a different story for a different day. So if I go and start the engine up, I've got to put this towel over here because this fuel line is leaking a little bit. So it's not going to run perfectly well because it hasn't been fine-tuned, but hopefully it'll run well enough. There you go. So seems to run okay. There's obviously a slight miss, and it took a while to start up, and the reason that would happen is because the fuel pressure is bleeding out of this little line over here, which needs to be tightened down. But once I get that, it's like every time I put a wrench on it, I seem to round it off, so I need to be real careful. But once I got this one cinched down, it should run a lot better. So I think that's me done for the day. I feel like this is a good a good result. I'm going to run out to the other building. I've got some plumbing work to do and some insulation to put up before we put the sheetrock on. We're on the stage before the final stage. So we've had the electrical inspection done, we've had the plumbing inspection done, we've had the framing inspection done. What we're doing right now is putting the sheetrock up, we're putting the insulation up, then we can tape and bed everything, and then put the bathroom in, the shower, the floor and the kitchen sink and everything else like that, and then it'll be ready to go, painted and ready to go. Then we'll get the final inspection, and I can actually use that office building, which will be hopefully a blessing, because that building is going to have air conditioning inside it, so at least I can work on some of the cars over there, and then when I get too hot, kind of go in and cool off and shower up if I need to. So that's the goal, and if it works out, then I may also use that building to get a dealer's license and then start selling vehicles, because I've got way too many vehicles of my own, and I also love this. So this is kind of what I enjoy doing. So if I can make a living out of it, I'd be very, very happy. But that's it. That's me done. And yeah, Happy New Year. Have a great weekend. And yeah, last day of second to last day of March. This is my first update of 2025. Thank you. Take care.